learning is no longer an HR initiative. A lot of it is not because technology is changing, but because for the first time, technology is evolving faster than institutions can adapt. Businesses will still have to perform, innovation will still have to happen, and you will wake up on Monday morning, but will you wake up with belief, energy, and purpose? When machines become more capable, humanity becomes more valuable. And therefore, leadership in the next decade will be less about commanding people and more about creating belief in uncertain times.
AI will not destroy your organization. Your decisions will. Leadership, culture, human capability. These are the things that will separate the organizations that grow from the ones that disappear. Prabir Jha said it plainly at India HR Conclave 2026. The future of work is not a technology problem, it is a people problem. Let's hear him out.
Prabir Jha has been the CHRO at Cipla, Tata Motors, and Dr. Reddy's. He's the founder of Prabir Jha People Advisory and one of the most respected voices in Indian HR. And today his topic is the people decisions that will shape the next decade. Let's put our hands together for Prabir Jha.
Good morning, everyone. So first, I'm delighted that, this is a room full of CHROs, I'm told founders of companies, institution builders, and leaders in general. Leaders who I believe in many ways are carrying one of the hardest responsibilities of our times. The responsibility of shaping human systems in an age of extraordinary disruption. So I'm going to talk a little about that context of disruption, and I'll try and talk about 5 things that at least the way I visualize the next 10 years, will be very key people decisions. And a lot of it is not because technology is changing. Technology has always changed. So when people talk about technology, it's not that technology has remained constant the last 30, 40, 50 years. But because for the first time, technology is evolving faster than institutions can adapt. Earlier, institutions introduced and leveraged technology. Now, technology is actually riding the tiger. For years, we have spoken about the world as VUCA. And I say VUCA is dead. VUCA was kids' play. It was volatile, complex, uncertain, ambiguous, and all that. But increasingly, we are living in a world which is Bani. I have been talking about Bani for some years now, because I genuinely believe unless you understand Bani, you're not going to understand risks, consequences, implications, and possible opportunities for your institution. What does Bani stand for? B is brittle. It's like biscuit you dip into your tea. It's that brittle. Societies, nations, communities, relationships, everything is brittle today. Careers, very brittle. Customer loyalty, very brittle. A is anxious. We live in times of unprecedented anxiety. I was sharing with some colleagues in the room a few minutes before the session. And I said, if you have not made it big by the time you're 40, 45, you can go home. It's scary. Anxiety. N is non-linear. Gone is the world of Stalinist predictable year-on-year growth. And companies still review year-on-year. I mean, I have no problem with that. But to expect it to be linear growth every year, those days are dead. So non-linearity, including in careers, because some of you are individual leaders here. Careers may have spikes and dips. Are we ready for it? And finally, I stands for incomprehensible. We don't even know what happened. This entire issue of causality is an overstated reality because there may be some correlation, but there's very little causality for everything. So that's the context in which we have to see the coming years and the coming decade. And to me, this is reality. And I see it everywhere. Either in denial or in acceptance. And yet, in the middle of all this turbulence, organizations will still have to grow. They'll be born, they want to grow, they want to do well. Businesses will still have to perform, innovation will still have to happen, and people will still have to wake up on Monday morning with energy, belief, and purpose. You will wake up on Monday morning, but will you wake up with belief, energy, and purpose? Which is why I believe the next decade, and that's really the core of what I want to kind of share as the takeaway for this keynote, will not primarily be shaped by technology decisions. It will still be people decisions. Leaders will have to make people decisions in response to technology. Technology decisions are easier. People decisions in anticipation and in response to technology is going to be very difficult. And this is the real conversation that we all have before us. And it is not going to be about what can AI do, but what will humans do in the age of AI. It will not be about how do we redesign work. And I find a lot of client companies reach out to me for help us redesign work. It's not going to be about just redesigning work. But what kind of an organization deserves the human commitment in the future? And human commitment is at a discount. I find many promoters reach out to me saying, Prabir, our guys don't have a sense of ownership. And I said, because I heard you share all that you did, I'm not surprised. Ownership comes at the end. Ownership is never in the beginning. And this is a mental reconstruction that many leaders, promoters are struggling with. It is also not going to be about how do we manage talent. It will be more about how do we expand human possibility. So I want to spend, therefore, the next some minutes speaking about what I find and believe. And you may disagree with all of them. I mean, it's not cast in stone. This is my point of view. The 5 critical people decisions that will shape the next decade. These are not HR programs. These are not policies. These are deep structural choices that organizations will need to make consciously or unconsciously. First decision, what will humans do that AI cannot? It must start from there. Today, almost every organization I talk to is discussing automation. But I sometimes worry that we are asking the wrong question. The real question is not what work can machines do. The real question is what human capability becomes even more valuable when machines exist. Because machines will be here. Machines will continue to do more and more of what we are doing. But what will human beings do? And what will be value adding? Because history shows us something very important. And blaming it on my education of having been a student of history. Every major technological revolution eliminated some form of work, all the way from industrial age down. Something actually changed. It elevated entirely new forms of human value. So not only did production change, for example, the respect or the repositioning of some human value happened, right? And I think we are now moving from an economy of repetition to an economy of judgment. I very strongly believe that more than jobs, skill will become important. Capabilities will be important. Individual capabilities, collective capacity of organization. Why and what is differentiating you as an entity? What is that collective capacity, that one thing that sets you apart? And many promoters struggle to give me an answer. You cannot be a jack of all trades anymore. That is not going to work. Human-machine collaboration will become very, very critical. So I think many organizations are underestimating how radical this shift is going to be. The second decision organizations must make, will we build talent or merely buy it? Big decision. I got off the corporate treadmill at 52, 7 years ago. I thought there was no other big HR job left for me to do. Can I help more and more companies get to be better companies, better leaders? Not to show whether That was the right assumption to make commercially. But one of the big learnings I've had is the biggest reach out people have to me is, Prabir, can you get me a good guy? Everyone believes hiring is the solution. Just get me a good guy. It's good money for me, fine. But I think there is a problem here. For decades, companies operated on a fairly simple assumption. If capability is needed, hire it from the market. Continues till today. But the half-life of skills is collapsing. And we talked about it in my first decision point. And it is collapsing very rapidly. And the model, in my view, is unsustainable. The external market alone cannot solve capability transformation. I'm not saying you don't have to inject, but that is not your solution or panacea to all your problems, which means learning is no longer an HR initiative. So one of the defining characteristics of successful organizations, in my view, in the next decade, will be, do they have the best talent? And they will be best only when they continuously reinvent ordinary talent. The third decision, in my view, is perhaps the most emotional one. Right? On emotions, sometimes there's less objectivity, but it doesn't make it less real. What will be the social contract between employer and employees as we look ahead? The past contract is destroyed. Marquee companies during COVID time said, oh, now we are declaring work from anywhere forever. Same companies, big names. Now if you don't come into office, your bonus is at stake, your employment is at stake. Why the hell did you make such loud comments when you had no intention? Just say for the next 3 months, 6 months, we'll do this. It's fine. What happens to that contract? The kind of, now whether AI linked or geopolitics linked, mass firing. So there is a big issue, but even otherwise, psychological safety, big problem. So because whether we admit it or not, the old contract is weakening. It is weakening even societally, not even only in organizations. The old promise was, give us loyalty and we will give you stability. The old zamindari system, right? Seth ji ke aap ho, 30 saal, Seth ji will take care of you, right? That contract is over. No one wants to necessarily just be a Seth ji's employee because you have your sense of learning, your curiosity, your sense of freedom. But stability itself is disappearing. Even the so-called stability that marquee companies, old tenured corporations were giving. Young professionals today, and see whether it resonates with you, to me are asking very different questions. They are not just asking, what do I earn? But they are asking, who do I become here? Right? It's not just about, okay, it is 10% more than what I'm getting. Who do I become here? Because I'm spoiled for choice. Because if you're in your, 20s or 30s, you're spoiled for choice. Will I remain mentally healthy here? Can I have a life here? Life space, career space issues. No one is only looking at career space unless you're a hardcore workaholic. What's your life space looking like? Will technology eventually make me obsolete here? So what are you hiring me for? What is your technology forecast? People will start asking these questions. Does this organization respect my humanity? Leadership is increasingly becoming humanoid. We'll talk a little about that towards the end. But it's important. People want to be treated like a human being. And I think this is why the conversation around well-being, financial wellness through the day, I know there are sessions and discussions planned around it, very important. Emotional resilience, meaning, they have become central rather than peripheral. People want to know that. And in today's world, and I concur with it, people are no longer excited about joining just the corporate brand. They can research the manager to be. And they want to join the right manager rather than just the so-called quote-unquote right company. An anxious workforce, friends, therefore, cannot build an innovative organization. It's not for the touch and feel of it. If you're emotionally not engaged, how can you innovate? And if you can't innovate, how will you survive, exist, do well in the world which is coming? A financially stressed employee cannot sustainably create value. A lonely workplace cannot build trust. And therefore, organizations will increasingly be judged not just by market capitalization, but by human sustainability. With your permission, I'll go to the fourth decision. And the fourth decision is, the fourth people decision, I believe that will impact this decade is, what is the kind of leadership that will survive? I was chatting over breakfast with some people outside, and I've said this in a lot of my writings. There are leaders and leaders in India. There is very little leadership. Every title holder does not practice leadership. So there's a difference between the verb and the noun. Industrial era leadership rewarded certainty, control, and authority. And in many ways, that was the ethos which has prevailed till now. But the future, in my view, will reward something very different. Curiosity over certainty, trust over hierarchy, adaptability over rigidity. And these sound very simple, but they are going to be mission critical. When information becomes abundant, wisdom becomes differentiated. Because everything you can get on ChatGPT. You don't go to a business school to get gyan. You want to acquire wisdom. You want to build perspective. They have to change the way they teach as well. Leaders have to change. It's no longer about 20 years and 30 years of seniority. When intelligence becomes democratized, judgment becomes differentiated. When machines become more capable, humanity becomes more valuable. And therefore, leadership in the next decade will be less about commanding people and more about creating belief in uncertain times. So leadership becomes a very important dimension. And we can talk at length about leadership, but I'll park that issue there in the interest of time and talk about the fifth decision, and possibly the most important decision of all. Will organizations become more human or more mechanical? And it's a choice promoters, founders, HR leaders, you all will have to think about. Because technology creates profound temptation to measure everything. And you'll smile. You'll say, oh, that's how my CEO talks. That's how my business head talks. To measure everything. And remember, I think it was Edison. I forget who it was. But someone like of his stature, someone said, all that can be measured does not always count, and all that counts cannot always be measured. Right? I mean, he had said it many years ago. So technology's temptation is to measure everything, to track everything, to optimize everything, standardize everything. And at some level, it had its sense and purpose. But human beings do not thrive through optimization. They thrive through dignity, meaning, belonging, trust, recognition, possibility. And therefore, I believe the defining organization of the next decade will not necessarily be the most automated. They may be the most deeply human. It is about redesigning human possibility and the culture that will enhance it, not diminish it. I hope you'll have a great day listening to various perspectives. Thank you very much for having me here. Much appreciated.